Hello, hello, everybody. How are you doing today? What is today? Monday, April the 6th, 2020. Got a lot of fun things that we're going to do today. I see a lot of you are already kind of jumping in and saying hello. So thank you to everybody who has jumped on so far. Okay, so those of you who this is your first time joining me for bead therapy, basically what bead therapy is right now Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I jump on here and do a video for you to teach you something new. It's my hope that what I teach you, some of the things that you would already have at your home, so you don't necessarily have to go out and buy a lot of things. And normally when I do a pattern for the project, the pattern is completely free. And how you get to that pattern is you go to www.offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. You click on step-by-step tutorials, and then there is a whole section for free. So this is my third or fourth week doing these. So basically every free pattern that I've done for these are in that free section. You do have to check out, add the freebies to your cart and check out to be able to get those. Now, I wanted to also let you know that I have a friend, Jason Casper, who's going to help me out today. So if I talk about something and I'm getting repetitive questions, Jason is going to jump on and he's going to help me to answer those today. So we are going to dive in to bead embroidery today. Now, sometimes when I say that, it totally scares people because they have no clue how to start bead embroidery. It scares them. They're like, oh my God, it stresses them out. The good thing to know about bead embroidery is basically our bead work, but it's on a surface rather than freehand. The good thing about bead embroidery is there's no right or wrong way. There's no wrong way to add the beads. There's no wrong way to add the stitches. It's completely up to you and what you can come up with. So my plan is to start today. This is part one of our 5-part series that we're going to do this week. So part one today, I want to talk to you about the foundations that you would stitch on, the backings that you would stitch on, the types of thread you're going to use, the types of needles, the types of beads, all that kind of good stuff. And it's my hope that by the end of today or before tomorrow's video, that you will have come up and decided what you are going to do for your project. So I will tell you this, don't become what's the word I'm looking for? Just because you're sitting at home right now or you're not that busy, don't get overconfident and think, oh, I'm going to make a whole bracelet or I'm going to make this huge piece. Start with something small, okay? Start with like a little pendant or a little brooch or something like that. And that way you will be able to get it done and you will be much, much happier with that. So let's dive right in. The first thing I want to show you are some really, really good books that you may want to reference for bead embroidery. So here's the first one. Sensational Bead Embroidery by Sherry Serafini. I will tell you, Sherry Serafini is one of the bead embroidery masters here in the United States. Her beadwork is amazing, and this is a really, really good book. Now, this is not so much a step-by-step book, but it is a really good book. She teaches you some nice stitches, some nice finishes, and she has 25 projects in the book. Okay, so this is the first one. She also has, Sherry also has a few other books. I found one of them that you could actually download as a Kindle ebook, but these are really good ones. And again, I showed a book a few days ago in one of these. If you cannot find these, I highly suggest, and you want them, check out Cindy's Beads and Crafts in Johnson City, Tennessee. Cindy has a ton of books, and she could pretty much get you and mail you any type of books you want. I know that we love Amazon because they get it to us immediately, but let's try to support our bead stores, definitely. Now, the next book I'm going to show you is called Dimensional Bead Embroidery. This one is by Jamie Cloud Eakin. Jamie is a wonderful bead embroidery artist. If I'm correct in saying this, if I remember correctly, she lives here in North Carolina. This is a really, really good book about techniques and how to do three-dimensional, which means we're going to build up the surfaces on the beadwork. So this is a really, really good one as well. This one is one of Jamie's earlier books. It's called Beading with Cabochons. If you're looking for a good beginner's book, this is going to be a really, really good beginner's book because she shows you all the different stitches about stitching around cabochons and different projects that you can do with those. Okay, so this is another really, really great book. Now, two books that have came out just here recently that I am obsessed with are actually Jamie Cloud Eakin books again. You can get these on Amazon as either a Kindle ebook or you can purchase a printed one, and the printing company prints it and ships it to you. So this one is Bead Embroidery Techniques. This is bezels. So the whole book is all about bezels that you can do with bead embroidery. So it's a really, really, really great book. Now, I'm going to tell you, if it was me, I would probably hit some of Jamie's earlier books to understand some of these, because this book is not so much step by step by step, but it's a really good jumping off vantage if you are learning bead embroidery, because she gives you some really, really great little different things in here. So it's another really, really nice book about bead embroidery. The other book is again by Jamie Eakin. This is edgings. The whole book is nothing but edgings that you can do around your pieces for bead embroidery. I really, really am loving these two books. I've learned a lot from these two books as I have got them in the last couple of weeks, so they are fantastic. Brenda says, I have that book, first one. It is a good one. Yes, it is. Barbara says, I have that book, beautiful coffee table book, love Sherry Serafini. Yes, 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 yes. So all of these artists that I've just told you about their books are really, really great references for bead embroidery. Regina, I think it's Regina Payne in Texas is another really good one. She does the Mountain Girl pieces. So here's the thing. If you are searching around the internet and you start to look, you're going to notice a really, really big difference in American beadwork versus the beadwork of our friends across the pond, like in the Ukraine and Russia and Estonia. Their beadwork is very different than ours. Although some of the techniques are different, they are very, very different. And so I've been watching tons of videos as I've been preparing for this video. I've been watching tons of videos. I have been doing lots of research over the weekend. And here's the biggest takeaway I can tell you from bead embroidery for those of you who listened to last week to see what we're going to do this week. If you've kind of been looking online, here's the biggest takeaway I'm going to tell you. And I can explain more of this tomorrow. But in American bead embroidery, we tend to start with, say, like, let me see if I can find it. I've got a desk full of stuff here today to show you. Okay, so we tend to start with a centerpiece or a main piece, and then we work around it. We create whatever we want to do with it, and then we have a quote-unquote finished piece. Our friends over the pond, they have a piece like this, and they outline the whole piece with beads first. Then they go and they fill in all of their piece. So it's although it's the same, they look different and they are a very, very different dynamic in how they're done. So we're going to talk about those as the week progresses. But the first thing I need to talk to you about is what we're actually going to stitch on. So there are two different things that we are going to use. We are going to use what's called the under backing, or the foundation that will actually take our needle and thread and we will stitch on. And the second thing that we will be using is called our outer backing, or that is going to be what's going to cover up all the stitches on the back, like all the ugly parts, and make it look nice and finished and pretty. So the under backing needs to be sturdy with a composition that doesn't fray when it's cut. Now, I got that specific phrase out of the Beading with Cabochon's books. The piece that people like to use a lot is called Lacy Stiff Stuff. It is a kind of, it's got a little bit of texture to it, as you can see here. It comes normally in white, maybe black, but it's stiff enough that you can get your needle through and work with, and you can kind of hold it and it not bend while you're working on it. So a lot of people like to use this to work with. You can also use an interfacing, like you would go to a craft store and purchase. They sell different, I guess I would call it weights or thicknesses of the interfacing. So you can do bead embroidery on this. Now, it's important for me to tell you, when I say bead embroidery, I mean bead embroidered jewelry. That's mainly what I'm going to be talking about in the video this week. I'm not talking about like beading on our clothes or anything else. I'm talking about jewelry. Okay, so here is like an interfacing you can do. You can stitch on suede, you can stitch on leather, you can pretty much stitch on anything. The only thing that I could tell you is that when you pick out what you are going to stitch on, you will definitely want to use something that is stiff enough to kind of hold your piece, but at the same time, you'll be able to get a needle through. So that will be really, really important. We need to get the needle through pretty easily with what we use. So I'm going to show you some other examples. This is what I carry in my store, Beading Foundation. It is from the Bead Smith Company, and it's just because this is what I like to use, okay? You can stitch on this. Somebody says, what about felt? Yes, you can stitch on felt. You can pretty much stitch on anything. So if like all you have at home is a piece of fabric or a piece of felt, then practice on that, absolutely. Can you use index cards? I am going to say that's a trick question. And the reason I say that is because, yes, you can stitch on it, but you still need a backing as well. So always understand that. A lot of our friends over like in the Ukraine and Russia and places like that, they actually will use almost like a tracing paper and with their pattern on it that will tear away, or they can tear away the outer parts of it as it's finished stitching. So just be aware of that. Okay, Ruth asked, not today's subject, but can you tell me the best stretch band elastic? Okay, Ruth, I would advise you to go back earlier in last week. I did a whole video about needles, thread, and stretch cords. So if you will go back and watch that. So the Beading Foundation comes in different sizes. White, black are the main two sizes it comes in. Now, I will tell you the really, really good thing about when you use a beading foundation like the Lacy Stiff Stuff or whatever is you can dye this with RIP dye or a natural dye, anything like that. But the biggest thing, it's important to understand, I'm going to read this straight from my notes so I don't get it wrong. When choosing a foundation or an underbacking, it's important to choose a color that will work well with the color beads you plan to use. In other words, if you're planning to use a lot of darker color beads, it would not be wise to use white foundation because you would see the white peeking through the dark beads. The problem is, like I said, most foundation comes in white or black. So you can dye this with grit dye or with a natural dye. You can use colored pencils and colored markers. So if I wanted to do, say, the belly in black, but I wanted these to be lighter colors, I could take a marker or a like a colored pencil, and I could color in the belly to be that darker color that I wanted to. So then that way the dark beads wouldn't look so bad on it. Gail says she has used food coloring with water, and yes, that works as well. So lots of good suggestions there about different things that people are using and all of that kind of stuff. So that's the biggest thing there. You can also, and this is something that I learned from the white box from Gail DeLuca in Knoxville, Tennessee, or yeah, Knoxville. You can also go ahead and you can paint this with acrylic paint. The biggest thing, if you choose to paint it with acrylic paint, you need to heavily dilute the paint with water, because if you choose to paint it with acrylic paint, it's going to make it thick and you're not going to be able to get that needle through there. So you'll definitely want to do it really water it down so it won't get cakey or anything like that. Mary Bauer says, I bought colored stiff stuff from Joann's. Can we order from your store online? Absolutely. offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Okay, so we talked about what you can stitch on. So if you have nothing that I talked about here today, find an old t-shirt or, you know, anything that you can practice on. It's better to get a little bit of practice than no practice at all. So that is a really good thing. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the outer backing, or the back part of what's going to make our piece look nice. Now, this is what's going to cover up all of our stitches. So this is my turtle that my friend Vera made me that I showed you guys last week. And again, I don't think I would do anything this big if this is the first time you've done bead embroidery, because this takes hours upon hours to do something like this. So what you want to do is maybe something a little bit smaller, but you can see here our backing is going to cover all of this up. Is the foundation bleed free, or will dye run from one area to another? Well, if you're going to dye it, like with dye, I would dye the whole sheet. Okay, you don't want to try to dye one portion of it. If you're going to dye the whole sheet. Okay, if you're going to want just certain parts like this, I'm probably going to do black or a dark red. I'm going to take a colored pencil or a Sharpie or a marker, and I'm just going to color in that one section. Okay. Somebody also suggested alcohol inks. Alcohol inks work really good as well. So for the outer backing, you can use ultra suede, you can use synthetic suede, a thin leather, you can use felt. Like I sell sheets of felt here in my store. They work really good as well. And I mean, felt you can get for like 33 cents for a sheet, 25 to 33 cents. You just want to pick a color that's either going to match. So what did I do with that? Okay. I told you I got too much stuff here to show you guys today. So you can either pick a color that's going to match really good with what you're doing, or you'll want to pick a neutral color to kind of go on the back. So when I put the backing on my turtle to cover up all those stitchings, this suede is going to look really good on the back of the turtle. And then I can kind of put it on whatever I want. On my website, I personally sell ultra suede. It comes in a couple of different sizes. This is the bigger size roll. This is an 8.5 by 8.5 piece. And then this is the other size roll that I carry. This is 8.5 by 4.25 inches. I normally don't use a sheet this big because for me, I normally don't do massive projects like necklaces because I just don't have the patience for it. But this is what I would have. Okay, how did you get the picture on the white sheet? West Water Woman, I will tell you in just a minute. We're going to get to that. Okay, next thing. So that kind of takes care of your backings. Here's one actually out so you can see it. You can see it's not too thick, so it's thin enough that I can get my needle through it and my foundation without killing myself to try and get through. So that is what those are good for. Now, needles. You can use a size 10, 11, 12, 13. Any type needle is going to work for bead embroidery. But having an assortment of needles while you bead at your mat is going to be beneficial to you, because if you start out with, say, like a size 10 beading needle, and then you start to put on some size 15 seed beads and you're going to make multiple thread passes, you may have to switch to size 11, 12, or 13 needle. Okay, so just be aware of that, but you can use any size needle, beading needle that you would like to do that. Now, thread. Again, thread, if you've got it, you can pretty much use it. That's the good thing. Don't get so caught up in, I need this specific thing, this specific thing, this specific thing, because again, there's no right and wrong way. There's things that people really, really enjoy or they like, but it's just use what you've got, okay? So 6-pound fire line works really good. Now, I'm going to say, if you use the clear, you're good to go. If you use the smoke fire line and you are going to use it on white, make sure, like if I was going, I said I was going to do this in red or black right here. So when I do that, what I'm going to do is, if I was using the black fire line, make sure to run your fire line through a dryer sheet first to get a good bit of that black that's going to come off of your fingers. Get that off so it doesn't come off on your piece, because once I'm done with this, like I can cut him out, but see, I've still got all of this I can use. So if I used black, I would smudge all of this, and you don't want to do that. So 6-pound fire line, you can use your 1G. The great thing about 1G, it comes in a lot of different colors. That your NYMO and like your KO thread, it comes in a lot of different colors, so you will be able to use these colors really, really well in your bead embroidery, because if you use it, it can match some of your beads. Another thing you can use is your Dura thread. And again, whatever thread you have, like same thing, if I use the black and the Dura thread, I'm going to run it through that dryer sheet first to get the black off of it before I start stitching with it. Okay, so lots and lots and lots of threads that you can use. If I'm going to use something that is going to require me to stitch crystals on it, I'm probably going to use that fire line. If I am going to use, just regular seed beads, then it's going to be my 1G or my KO thread or something like that. Okay, are they color fast? Kathleen, I'm not sure what you're asking, what is color fast. So if you can clarify, maybe we can get that answered for you. But so now you can use any type of needles, you can use any type of threads, and you'll be good to go. Can you use NYMO? Yes, absolutely. Again, any thread that you have, you can use, and you'll be good to go. I just wouldn't use like a 10-pound fire line to stitch with. That's the biggest thing. You can use 1G. You can use anything that you can stitch with, basically. So, really quick, beads. If it's got a hole in it, you can use it. If it's got a hole in it, even sometimes if it doesn't have a hole in it, like your cabochons, anything that you would normally stitch with, you can use for bead embroidery. So, size 15s, size 11s, size 8s, size 6 seed beads. I've used 2-hole cabochons. I've used gem duos. A lot of our friends over in the Ukraine and Russia, Estonia, they really like to use Swarovski crystals that are actually in like encasements, basically, or in the metal pieces. You can use those. So anything that you have, at your home you can use. So like my turtle, my friend Vera, she used 2-hole tile beads. So, I mean, any bead that you have will work for bead embroidery. That is the fun thing about that. So, any beads that you have. Now, a few other things that you're going to need to gather this week while we're working. You're going to need a really good sharp pair of scissors. And I actually like to have 2 pairs of scissors. I have 1 pair of scissors that I use when I am done to actually cut this out. So, because I'm going to cut my bird out. So I have 1 pair of scissors that I only use for pieces like this. And then I have my scissors that I use for thread. I never try to use the same scissors to cut my thread as I cut this stuff, okay? So you need scissors. Excuse me. You need a ruler. A ruler is going to help you out as we start doing something like this. Say if I'm going to put a cabochon, glue a cabochon onto a piece, this is something that you're going to want the ruler for because you're going to want to mark everything. So that is one thing there. You're going to need paper. Now, paper will be to trace your pattern out so that you don't draw it on here first. You can use paper to draw that out, okay? So that's why you need paper. You need a fine point marker, pen, colored pen, etc. And you'll also need markers. Now, we've already talked about the markers. That's where we're going to color in any part. So like on this one, I would use my markers here to color in the dark red or the black. I would color that in, but that's why you need markers. Somebody says hand quilting thread would work. I don't recommend hand quilted thread. I recommend your beading thread. It doesn't mean you can't use it. I just don't recommend it because it's, especially if you're going to use it with crystals. Okay, now the colored pencil, the marker, whatever, that is also going to be to draw out your piece actually on here, okay? Now, here's the thing. You can use a marker, a colored pencil, whatever you want. I also like to use, these are fabric pencils, so these will mark on fabric and they'll kind of rub away. I've got a blue one that I use to mark on white, and I have a white one that I use to mark on my black foundation because it will put my things on there and it's not so bold that you can't not use this. Does the ink bleed when drawing on fabric? Fabric, yes, if you use fabric. Now, beading foundation, it should not bleed, okay? But if you are using fabric, yes, it's probably going to bleed. Okay, you can use silamide. You can use silamide. Again, guys, any thread will work, okay? Just be thoughtful about the kind of thread that you're going to use when you do it. Now, another thing that works really, really well is a white gel pen on dark foundations. And I'm going to show you more tomorrow as we are kind of thinking about it. Some things you will want to actually grid off, so it's a little bit easier to keep everything symmetrical if that's the look you're going for. So if you have a white gel pen, again, that will work really good as well. You're going to need glue, okay? The glue that I'm going to be using is my E6000. Now, the glue is going to be used for putting on cabochons. It can also be used so that when I glue my turtle onto my backing, that's what I'm going to use is the E6000 glue. Now, I'll admit, I'll be the very first person to admit to you that I am really, really bad about wanting something to dry really quickly so I can start working on it. So if that's the case, if you're like me and you can't wait, like you want to start on it, I sometimes will glue using this Zap Gel Glue or this Zap-A-Gap glue. The biggest thing you have to understand about these glue, these are instant dry glues. So when you put it on there, it's pretty much going to be where you put it. And the other thing you'll want to think about is if you use too much of these instant dry glues, it can turn around like the bead that you're putting on there. It can turn that white around it. And so if you're using some darker beads, times, you may see that. So it's better to kind of use the E6000, let it, let it dry for just a little bit, and you'll be good to go. You can also use double-sided tape. So on this one, if I really wanted to get started quickly, I could put double-sided tape onto the back of this so that it would stick to it. But if you're going to use double-sided tape, make sure that you encase this, and we'll talk more about that in the week. You definitely want that to be encased. I never double-side tape something that I'm just going to kind of just bead around rather than encase. So beware of that too. You're going to need any findings, like ear wires, pin backs if you're going to make a pin. You're going to need some wax. So for those of you who are using like your Namo or your 1G or whatever, you may want to use some of your wax, like beeswax or Thread Heaven or anything like that that you have. It's not necessary, but it does help. You need a good lamp. And another thing that I seen that was really, really interesting as I was researching over the weekend is some of the people that I seen over in the Ukraine, they will use an embroidery hoop. Now, I've not been able to understand why some of them use it. The only thing I can figure is they take their piece, they use a very thin like net almost to put inside of the hoop or a netted fabric. Then they tack this onto that net. Now, number one, if you do that, it's going to help the thread not to get caught on edges. Even this one, if I was going to use this whole sheet, I would round these corners off as to not get it holding. The other thing I would say is that it helps you not to touch this as much. So that is another thing. I've never used an embroidery hoop, but I can definitely see why you might want to, I guess. So that's the thing. So those are all materials you'll need to gather to work on your project. Now to the fun part. Some of you, I've had a lot of questions. How did you do this? How did you get your image on there? Even this one, like how did you get the images on there? Okay, so the internet, the great thing about the internet is that there is tons and tons and tons of free clip art on there for you to look at and gain inspiration from to be able to have a perfect, fun little design like this. I know I could not draw this to save my life, but thanks to the art of the internet, it's got free clip art. So Jason Casper actually has a wonderful Pinterest board that he has made all about bead embroidery, and it has a lot of different of this clip art and things like that. So I wanted to show you, these are just some that I would personally was interested in, because I know that some of my family would be interested in gifts made with some of these. So my mom loves birds. Hint, hint, mama, maybe for Mother's Day. So this is the bird. Now, what I did was I printed this off, and then I went over to my window. I laid my foundation in front of my little picture here, and I traced it just standing at my window. So that way I could see the lines through my foundation. So you can, well, you can't see it, but so you can barely see the lines there through, and I could see the lines holding it up to my window, and I was able to trace straight onto my piece. Okay, so that's one really, really easy way to be able to do that. So you can look up clip art. You can look up, somebody suggested coloring books. Coloring books are amazing, because here is something, this is what my friend Vera, this is what she got the turtle out of, was a coloring book. And again, she just traced it through her window. You can use a light box. Yes, absolutely. You can definitely use a light box. Somebody says, I'm thinking rubber stamps would work. Yes, you could probably use a rubber stamp as well. So I'll show you a couple other ones here. This is one that I really loved, and this was actually an applique pattern. So I went to Pinterest, I typed in applique patterns, and this was a little applique pattern that popped up that I really, really liked. I think this was from a coloring book page online. and I printed out a couple of different sizes of it. I would not go something this big, okay? For your first one, stay kind of smaller like this. Let's see. Okay, my sister-in-law loves cats. I thought, how cute would this be to make a pin to go on her purse? Oh my goodness. Love, love, love it. Let me see. There was another one that I found that I liked. Again, this was an applique pattern that I found completely for free on Pinterest. And then you can see here, I actually printed it in another size. This is a little too small almost to do what I want to do. So I probably would go with that little bigger size. Okay, let's see here. I have used a stylus and go over the image onto the backing. It makes a bit of an indentation, then go over the indented lines on a flat surface. Well, that's a really, really, really great idea. Another great place for art are stamps for card making, yes. So there's a lot of different ways, but basically, if you don't have any of that, everybody, I hope, is not in a bunker and they have a window in their house. So that's the easiest way to go ahead and get this onto your foundation. So that's your homework today. Homework day number 1, homework. Yes, you are in class and you have homework. I want you to take and figure out what you want to do and get it traced onto your foundation. Okay, so that is going to be our homework. You can, yes, I draw a picture and use tracing pencil and traced it onto the foundation. Yes, you can do that. And I wish I could remember, if I think about it, I will post the link in the comment section of this video. I seen one too where I think it was like Native American beadwork, where they drew it on with a certain type of pencil and they ironed it onto their foundation as well. So that's another thing. I'm reading some of the comments, going through, making sure I didn't miss anything. So that is what we're going to do today. Homework for day 1. I want you to go ahead, find something that you can stitch onto. Okay, then go ahead and put it onto your piece. Now, tomorrow, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to talk to you about the different stitches, okay? So we're going to learn a couple of different stitches and how to kind of get started. So tomorrow, I think what we're going to do, I'm going to show you those stitches and then we're actually going to outline it. So go ahead tonight, do this and kind of start thinking about the colors you want to do and start kind of pulling beads. And we are going to watch that. So a couple of people, outer shapes from a cookie cutter might work if you're good at filling in the inside with your own custom pattern. Absolutely, Patricia Morgan. Cookie cutters are a really good idea. The Betty Boop says, I think I had to iron the tracing paper to have the design. Somebody says carbon paper. Yes. Is there a good bead embroidery video we can watch before tomorrow? Well, honestly, you don't have to, because tomorrow I'm going to show you the basic stitches that you're going to need to know. So yes, Jason Casper says, I listed 4 of Kelly's previous videos above. Thank you, Jason, for doing that, because I've done a bead embroidery series and I've done several bead embroidery projects, such as the carved in stone pendant, the Bollywood pendant. What else have I done? Oh, the brooch, the holiday brooch, which was just a few months ago. So I have several videos if you want to go back and watch something before tomorrow. But like I said, this is your homework today. So let's see what you come up with. My goal and my hope for the week is that we can all work on a project and we can have that project finished on Friday so we can share pictures with each other and see what everybody has done. So guys, I hope that you have had a fabulous day here during bead therapy. I hope you have learned something that you did not know before. Thank you to everybody who jumped in today and commented with all of your awesome suggestions about different ways we can do things. I love, 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 love that. And so guys, I hope that you have a fabulous day and I'll see you back here tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm in North Carolina on the East Coast of the United States. So 1 o'clock my time, we'll be on here and we'll get you guys going. So have fun tonight, you guys. I can't wait to see if you go ahead If you're a member of our Facebook group, I would love for you to show us pictures of what you're going to do tomorrow. So y'all have a great one. We'll talk to you later. Bye.